Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Books and Beasties. My name is Sarah Newland. I am a licensed veterinary technician and an award-winning young adult fiction author, and Books and Beasties is really a combination of those two things. So I'm going to be chatting about how a beastie in a particular book, so an animal character, affects the plot and character development of the other characters in the book. So this is episode 1. I'm very excited. You're gonna have to forgive me. I don't have a physical copy of the book for this segment. I listened to it on audio. It was extremely good. I highly recommend it. So this time we are going to be talking about Nox the Cat in Rachel Griffin's The Nature of Witches. In lieu of having a physical copy here with me, I am burning a Salem, Massachusetts Witch City Wicks candle in its absence. And you can obviously enjoy the cover here. So what we're gonna do is go through, I'm gonna give a little bit of background on the book. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the author, and then we'll dive into the beastie Nox and the role that Nox plays. And then I will follow everything up with a little vet tech tidbit in relation to the beastie that we're talking about. So let's get started. Okay, so The Nature of Witches. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. Young adult fantasy, very good. It's told, it's very emotional. So yes, there's a lot of action going on, but it's very reflective, going through, seasons of change and a lot of emotional change. So a lot of heavy on the typical YA coming of age theming. It follows a witch named Clara, and in Clara's world, it's very similar to our world, and they're experiencing massive climate change. So they're having really just terrible natural disasters, climate and weather patterns are way wonky. And in Clara's world, there are weather witches who are normally very, very capable of handling these issues. So a witch's power is really derived and based off of the season that they're born in. So you have spring witches, summer witches, autumn witches, and winter witches. So they all have their strengths and weaknesses. They celebrate the changing of each season. So in summer, they really celebrate the summer witches. In autumn, they celebrate the autumn witches. And as they go through their essentially schooling and graduate, they are assigned different places in the world to help manage the weather based on the strengths of their powers. So, or their proclivity, I guess, towards a certain weather element. So some are better with rain, some are better with wind, things like that. So Clara is an emerging witch, so she is still in the schooling process, and she is actually what they call an Everwitch. She has the powers of all the seasons. So she actually feels that change when the change of the weather shifts, going from spring to summer, summer to fall, etc. She feels that shift where her powers actually change, her strengths, her emotions, her attitude changes a little bit. It's very interesting. And that is really the baseline. That's where we find ourselves. And the world is on this cusp of all of this environmental change that, witches are basically burning themselves out, dying, trying to save the world, the non-magic community from these weather events. And the non-magic community just kind of assumes oh, the witches have always handled it, they can handle it. And the witches can't handle it. And all of the witches of the world are turning to Clara, the only ever witch, thinking, you have to handle it. And Clara, who is terrified of her magic because of destruction it's brought her life in the past, she wants nothing to do with it. She wants out, doesn't want to be a witch. She certainly does not want to be an Everwitch. So that is where we find ourselves in the opening of The Nature of Witches. Now, before we jump into Nox, I did want to touch on Rachel Griffin, the author, because this is a very interesting, most people, I think, read a book and then come to really appreciate an author. I had a very reverse experience where I actually discovered Rachel Griffin on social media first. And I, of course, saw advertisements for The Nature of Witches as it was being released. And I was interested. I was committed. I was going to read. I wasn't going to get it right then. But then I really connected with Griffin over her pre-order campaign, where for every pre-order of the Nature of Witches, she was going to basically donate to have a tree planted in honor of that pre-order. And as someone who works with animals and is very environmentally conscious, that really resonated with me, and I was just instantly like, yes, I like you. I want this book. So it's entirely on brand for the book, but more than that, it really speaks to who she is as a person, and I just felt immediately connected to her in that way. All right, now for our beastie of the moment, beastie of the book, we are going to move on to Nox the Cat. So Nox, let's start with his name, is short for equinox, which I just love. So yes, he is a black cat, so Nox also, resembles or stands for dark. So there is that, but she took it one step further and made his name Equinox, which is just lovely because it fits so well with the whole weather theme that she has instilled into this book. So instantly love that. I also really, really love that she went with the black cat witch cliche. She didn't hold back. She just fully embraced it and made it her own, and I completely love it. Nox is your average cat. He does not talk. He has no special powers. The cat is a cat, and I really like that too, because in a lot of witchy books, their animals are their familiars, so that they have some kind of power about them, whereas in this case, Nox is truly, I say just a cat. I don't mean for that to in any way undermine his importance or the importance of any cats. My cats are extremely important to my physical and emotional well-being. So he is still a very important player in this game. He just doesn't have any additional powers. Another part that I really like about Nox's name that really underlines Clara's character right from the get-go is that the equinox symbolizes a shift. And in Clara's experience, shifting from one season to another is pretty traumatic. Relationships don't last because her emotions are fluctuating with the witchy season. And she essentially, a lot of her changes when the seasons change because her powers are changing. So the fact that she named her cat Equinox, which is a symbol of a time of turmoil in her life, but she loves this cat, already shows an essence of resilience in her character, kind of this determination to see through her trials, see through her suffering and her struggles, and love Nox for what he is. And I think that speaks a lot to how she gets through all of the struggles that she has to get through in this book. Now, Nox doesn't really play a major role in the development of Clara's character from front cover to back cover, but he does prove throughout the book to be a constant, which is something that Clara is under the impression is missing from her life. So she feels like she's in a constant state of flux, just like the earth, that she's going through these seasons, she can't get any stability, and yet all the time Nox is there. And that's not something that's explicitly stated at any time. It's just, he is a constant in her life. And I think a lot of us as pet owners or animal lovers can resonate with that. You know, no matter what is going on at work, no matter what is going on with my family, my cats are gonna meet me in bed at the end of the day. And that is a constant. I can rely on that no matter what is happening. My cat is going to be there. She will also be there at dinner, right under the table. She will swat food from you if you're not watching. So it is that constant presence that provides a little bit of reassurance and a lot of stability to Clara that I'm not even sure she consciously realizes is happening. Now, one of the key moments for Nox in this story is when a really bad, bizarre weather event is coming to the school. And it's a really big storm. The weather witches were not able to get it under control, so they're all taking shelter. And Clara cannot find Nox. She knows that Nox is out in the storm, and she does what I think every concerned pet owner would do and runs out into the storm, kind of, throwing caution to the wind, quite literally, and going out after her cat. As someone who loves their cats very much, I get it. And it again shows how much right there Clara is willing to do for the people and the animals that she cares about. So she is willing to most definitely risk herself, risk bodily harm to make sure that Nox is safe. So right there, big moment. She's showing what is important to her. Nox is important to her. And I think this is something that a lot of authors use animals for in their books, is to show humanity, show some caring, that this person is a good person because they're going to try and rescue, this animal. And of course, I'm going to leave you with a vet tech tip. Okay, it's not that fun. So my vet tech tip is honestly common sense, but I think in the heat of a moment, when you feel that your pet is in danger, it is our first instinct to, disregard safety for ourselves. So there's a moment in this book where Clara dashes into the storm to try and save Nox. If at any time your pet is accidentally outside during a storm, please take care of yourself first. Make sure that you have shelter and trust that animal instincts take over. They will find shelter. It is not where you want it to be. You want them sheltering with you, but they will find shelter, whether it's under a tree or under a car. They will find somewhere to wait this out. Once it's over, go out and look for your pet. And remember, I have personally found pets, that run up to my door in the middle of a storm. So, ask neighbors, put up flyers, but do not go out into wicked wild weather looking for your furry little friends. They are definitely capable of finding somewhere safe and dry to wait out the chaos. Thank you so much for joining me on this very first episode of Books and Beasties. If you know of a book or a beastie that you would love to see featured, please leave it in the comments. I am always looking for recommendations. And otherwise, I will see you next time.